Mother and I is now on view at J.C. Ducot bus shelters in all 5 boroughs. More at publicartfund.org.
WNYC, independent journalism in the public interest. 93.9 FM and AM 820. NPR News and the New York Conversation.
Marketplace is supported by Bitwarden Password Manager, helping to extend spring cleaning to online security with strong and unique passwords for every account at bitwarden.com.
If you've been following along, today did not come as a surprise. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Cencora, bringing the companies and capabilities of AmerisourceBergen together under one new name. Cencora empowers healthcare partners with custom strategies to elevate patient care and accelerate positive outcomes at Cencora.com. And by The Economist, which has been dedicated to providing independent journalism that makes sense of the news shaping the world for over 180 years. More at economist.com or with The Economist app, newsletters, and podcasts. And by the University of Illinois' Geese College of Business, offering a completely online MBA program that learners can take at their own pace while engaging with classmates around the globe. Learn more at onlinemba.illinois.edu.
In Los Angeles, I'm Kai Rizdal. It is Monday today. This one is the 10th of March. Good as always to have you along, everybody. The temptation, of course, on a day like today is to point out that the stock market is not the economy. And it's not. That said, though, in contrast to those days where the market swings pretty wildly and the general vibe is, yeah, I don't know, markets just do that sometimes. Today, we know exactly what's going on. The chaotic trade policy coming from the White House and the refrain from everybody, from the president on down being, yeah, there's going to be some discomfort. The rubber has finally started to meet the economic road. Major indices rolled over. Nervous traders went hard into bonds, which sent yields farther down. And now we are just waiting for the dust to settle. And as we wait, consider this. The latest survey of consumer expectations from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York shows that more than a quarter of households are expecting their financial situations to deteriorate considerably in the coming year. A growing number expect to be spending more, and they believe it's going to be increasingly hard to get credit. And fewer say they're likely to quit their jobs voluntarily this year, in part because they expect unemployment to rise. Marketplace's Samantha Fields gets us going.
In economics, the consumer is not always right. Ben Harris at Brookings says take the last couple of years. By almost any measure, the economy has been strong.
Unemployment has been historically low. The stock market's growing. Economic growth has been continuing. We would have expected that people's outlook, all in all, would be relatively positive.
Instead, consumers have been feeling pretty negative. He says there's been a real mismatch between sentiment and reality.
Middle part of 2022, for example, people were just as down on the economy as they were during the great financial crisis, even though the economy in 2022 was doing so much better.
Consumers then were also saying one thing, that they were worried about the economy, and doing another, continuing to spend like they weren't worried.
Just because folks say they're unhappy about the state of the economy, that doesn't mean much.
Justin Wolfers at the University of Michigan says it's important to distinguish between how people feel about the economy broadly and how they feel about what's happening in their own lives.
Because what folks are expert in is not the aggregates, GDP and the unemployment rate, but their own household economies.
And in the last couple of years, when people said they were worried about the economy,
they were worried about the headlines of the national economy, but not their own household economies.
But this latest survey from the New York Fed shows people are increasingly concerned about their own financial futures. Vicki Bogan at Duke University says that is worth watching, because if people are worried about their own bills and job prospects,
they're less likely to spend. They're more likely to save money. When they're reducing their spending and saving more, what is it going to do? It's going to reduce the demand for goods and services. When consumers reduce their demand for goods and services, business sales are going to decline.
Which is why when consumer expectations fall, there's always the possibility an economic slowdown could be coming. I'm Samantha Fields for Marketplace.
Stock of the day today, among the many, many that wound up deep in the red, is ticker symbol TSLA. Shares off 15% on the day, 36% the past month for Tesla. Obviously, what investors are willing to pay for a share of any given company is an amalgam of hard business decisions and how any given investor feels about that company. And in this case, about its CEO and said CEO's side hustle. With the observation that Tesla shares have now lost all their gains since the presidential election, just to pick a random point in time, Marketplace's Kelly Wells has more.
This isn't an EV market problem. It's an Elon Musk problem, says climate economist Garnet Wagner at Columbia Business School.
What's happening here, you can probably explain through the politics and the optics.
Wagner says Tesla stock exploded after the November election because of Elon Musk's proximity to newly elected President Trump.
That proximity has not turned into Tesla sales, at least not yet, and maybe never.
So EV drivers are buying other cars. And equity strategist Seth Goldstein at Morningstar Research says that's not just because of politics.
We're seeing increased competition. Other automakers are now offering comparable long-range vehicles at a similar price point.
On top of all that, the Trump administration has brought with it some bad news for a huge piece of Tesla's business. Gil Tall is the director of the Electric Vehicle Research Center at UC Davis.
Tesla have one less very serious revenue source, which is selling credits.
Tall says Tesla, one of the cleanest automakers, sells carbon credits to its more pollutive colleagues so they can meet state regulations and those imposed by the Environmental Protection Agency. The EPA regulation is now in question.
By canceling the EPA regulation and so on, they just directly canceling this market.
That would be bad news when credits make up more than a third of Tesla's business. Moreover, Tesla sales are cratering in Europe, and there have been protests against the company here and abroad because of Elon Musk's political involvements. Jessica Caldwell with Edmunds says this summer is going to be a major test for Tesla's future.
People that buy stock in Tesla, it's almost like a dream as to what is going to happen. Is Tesla going to dominate the robotaxi field? Because we know who does that is going to be an extremely profitable company.
Whether Tesla dominates the field will depend on whether it makes good on its promise to have autonomous vehicles on the road starting in June. I'm Kaylee Wells for Marketplace.
Let's do the numbers. Yeah, nobody's surprised, right, that it's the Wawas today. Dow Industrial's off 890 points, 2.1%, 41,911. The NASDAQ subtracted 727 points, 4% even, 17,468. The S&P 500 down 155, 2.7%, 56,14 there. The proximate causes you know, right? Okay. S&P is about to do another one of its quarterly rebalancings. It announced it's replacing 4 companies in the index, and that is usually good news for the newcomer shares. But today, forget about it. Losses for newbies DoorDash, which gave up 0.1%. TKO Holdings Group. Actually, it's TKO Group Holdings. That's a parent of WWE and UFC. Get it, TKO? Took a 1.1% hit. Retailer Williams-Sonoma, which fell 1.7%. The one new addition that did gain, Energy, of course, natural gas producer Expand Energy, which inflated 3 0.2%. Bonds rose, yield on the 10-year T-note down 4.22%. You're listening to Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Progressive Insurance, helping protect a wide variety of small businesses with over 30 customizable coverage options to choose from. It's small business protection that won't break the bank. Online quotes available at progressivecommercial.com. And by Odoo, dedicated to providing software designed to scale with businesses. Odoo's programs for manufacturing, accounting, and more aim to provide building blocks for creating a custom software suite. Odoo, what small businesses need. And by NetSpy, the proactive security solution used to discover, prioritize, and remediate security vulnerabilities for some of the most trusted global brands. NetSpy, cybersecurity that helps keep pace with today's risks at netspy.com.
I'm LaFontaine Oliver, President and CEO of New York Public Radio. Throughout this fundraiser, we've been talking about how cuts to our federal funding would destabilize public broadcasting. But what would that look like? During the wildfires in Los Angeles, we depended on public radio reporters in California for updates. We experience what happens in New Orleans through stories from our partners in Louisiana and what happens in Baltimore from the team there. And when the rest of the country needs to know about an important story in New York, our neighbors hear about it from WNYC. Public radio is a community. Reporters across the country serving their local areas and the entire nation. And yes, public radio is an essential service. Efforts to cut our federal funding could severely compromise this important resource, a resource that exists for everyone. Stand with us. Start a monthly donation now. Here's how.
Call 888-376-9692 or go online to WNYC.org. Click donate. I'm Sean Carlson here with Michael Lowinger, co-host of On the Media. Maybe you're somebody who has appointment listening to hear Marketplace every day, and honestly, like me, who is not particularly financially literate, is like, I need to know what is going on with this stock market. Know that Kai Ryssdal and the team are going to explain it to me in a way that I can understand. Then now is your time to contribute to public media. Again, federal funding is at risk. So we are asking you to stand up, stand with us to help protect public media in your community. And yes, if you know that when you hear Stormy Weather in that minor key, it's the wah-wahs for the stock market, there are no wah-wahs if you give to WNYC today. So that is what we're asking you to do right now. 888-376-9692. You can also contribute through the WNYC app or by going to WNYC.org.
Yes, being a 100% passive consumer of news does not feel good when the news is such a downer. But you know what makes you feel better? Taking some of your agency, doing something to help the world and invest in an information ecosystem that is good for the world. And that is what public media is, and that is what WNYC is. I want to tell you a little bit about a first-time donor, Martha from Oyster Bay, New York, who sent us this message just recently. Thank you for your continued thorough and unbiased reporting of events going on around the world. I'm a first-time donator. We need to keep this kind of reporting on the air. Be like Martha. It feels good to give. Mm-hmm. Please make a difference. The desire to make a difference, the belief that a free, independent press is essential to a civil democracy, the value of stories that bring people together, that is what you're investing in when you donate to our station. So please become a new sustaining member today. Call 888-376-WNYC. That's 888-376-9692, or contribute online at WNYC.org. I promise you it'll make you feel better.
Yeah, definitely. And we should note, too, while you're at the website, you can check out all of the great thank you gifts for contributing at certain levels of WNYC. We asked at the beginning of this pledge drive that 10,000 folks step up and become sustaining members of WNYC. That is a monthly contribution to this station, or upping your contribution if you already are a sustaining member. And we are at about 9,000, and that's with a day and a half left here. I think we can do it. I'm actually really impressed with, I am really impressed with how much progress we've been able to make this pledge drive. It shows that you're responding to the message, that what we're saying about the threat of that federal money going away is really resonating with the audience, and you're really saying, you know what, I really value this and want to see this continue in my community. Join the 9,000 other people who have already become sustaining members. Join them by giving, again, at 888-376-9692. Let me draw your attention to a very cool tote bag to add to your collection of tote bags if that's your thing. $8 a month will send you the new WNYC Centennial Tote. It's kind of a collector's item, given the fact that we are celebrating our 100-year anniversary. We want to be around for another 100 years with your support. The new tote's white canvas. It's got red straps. It's got our Centennial logo on one side, a custom illustration by New York artist Katie Mers on the other. If you contribute at a level of $8 a month, we'll send that to you as a thank you gift. 888-376-9692. Again, you can also contribute through the WNYC app or at WNYC.org.
Think about the times that you listen to WNYC throughout the day. Is it in the morning when you wake up? Is it during your commute on the way home? Is it fun stuff on the weekend that helps get your mind off of the news, but still makes you feel smart and it engages your heart and your imagination? When do you listen to WNYC? Now imagine, poof, it's gone. Okay? Do not let that happen to us.
Yeah.
What Sean is talking about is your neighbors and members of your community stepping up and fighting against that future. It does not have to happen. We can protect our WNYC. So please become a sustaining member. Call 888-376-9692 or go to WNYC.org.
Again, this is our Winter Pledge Drive here at WNYC. It's the second to last day. We're really cooking with gas, or let's say an environmentally sustainable fuel source we're cooking with. Either way, we're doing well. We're pushing hard. We're being bold. We're going to do this together. 888-376-9692 or WNYC.org.
This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Ryssdal. A reminder, by way of setting up this next piece, that what Elon Musk and his operatives call government savings often, even usually, aren't. Governments aren't businesses and can't be run the same way. Case in point, healthcare and government funding. Hospitals and clinics in rural parts of the country rely heavily on federal funding to keep the doors open and services available. And the cuts that have been made so far are having ripple effects far from Washington. Oregon Public Broadcasting's Lillian Karabik has more.
Last fall, Bobby Nicolaitis was on the once-a-week bus that travels through the Oregon Outback.
This bus, we are like family. It's a great group of people.
Nicolaitis was making the 130-mile trip to get a blood draw at a clinic. On average, rural patients travel twice as far to health care. Bus driver Debbie Warren said it's part of rural living.
Doctor's appointments are a long ways away, but there's peace and quiet.
This bus service is federally funded, and it's just one of many health services that could disappear with federal cuts. Rural community health clinics are also feeling threatened. Take Fossil, Oregon, a community in the high desert that's so remote the Census Bureau doesn't even categorize it as rural, but rather frontier.
1 person per acre.
That's Teresa Hunt, the CEO of Asher Health, the only provider in this area, serving 1,200 patients a year, and
without the federal money for being a federally qualified health center, there's no way that we'll be here. Well, it would be devastating for the people that live here.
And if the clinic loses funding and closes, patients will have to drive more than 3 hours over winding mountain passes to get care. Many other rural clinics face similar challenges.
We're designed to take care of the underserved. We're the primary care safety net for a community.
That's Casey Bolton, CEO of Aviva Health, a community health clinic in rural Douglas County, Oregon. It serves about 18,000 patients a year with the help of federal funding. Last month, Bolton started to worry he might not have access to federal grants that are already promised to the clinic. So he tried to withdraw the remaining balance. Apparently, he wasn't the only one.
Think of it kind of like a run on the bank. Like everyone's trying to draw off the system. It overloaded the system.
The federal portal from the Health Resources and Services Administration crashed.
We're all thinking the same thing. Let's get ahead of this.
He was eventually able to withdraw the $3 million of grant funding, but that money will only get the clinic so far. Meanwhile, Bolton is even more worried about possible cuts to Medicaid.
It's kind of like the ER for outpatient care. We won't turn folks away based on their ability to pay.
Nationally, about 47% of children in rural areas use Medicaid. It's even more for Aviva Health.
That's my big worry, actually.
The House passed a budget resolution that calls for $880 billion in health services cuts.
These are facilities that literally have 0 days cash on hand to operate.
That's Carrie Cochran McLean with the National Rural Health Association. She says rural healthcare providers are left scrambling, trying to even get federal grant coordinators on the phone. Cochran McLean says cuts to federally staffed clinics could shift pressure elsewhere. And in rural areas, community health clinics will have to pick up the slack.
Those costs have to go somewhere, and frequently they end up being shifted to other parts of our healthcare system, which then in turn kind of raises costs across the board, which is kind of a never-ending spiral.
And she says for patients in rural areas, these federal funding uncertainties threaten to spiral clinics out of existence altogether. In Oregon, I'm Lillian Karabik for Marketplace.
The white-hot center of uncertainty in this economy right now is, of course, trade policy. On again, off again, on again, off again. Tariff pronouncements will do that to you. Also, and not something we've really talked about in this go-round of Trump tariffs, exemptions, carve-outs for certain products, subject to the whim of the Commerce Department. Among those dealing with that uncertainty is Sam Desai. He's vice president of RM Metals out of South Plainfield, New Jersey. We first talked to him back in 2018 was when his company was deep in the heart of the steel and aluminum tariffs back then and filing for exemptions. And we figured it was time to check back in.
I'm not in the prediction business. I feel like I'm making guesses all day. It's not the way it should be. It should be the metal comes in, they give it to the consumer to use, and that's what it should be, right? Since this duty was announced about a month ago, aluminum pricing has gone up about 20%. Steel prices have gone up about 15%, just based on some remarks, over the last 4 weeks. I don't know if they have changed the prices yet in the retail stores, but I can guarantee you they'll change them in the next couple of weeks. I have product coming in right now, and I had sold it to a customer, and now I'm going to see them on Thursday, but, I got to figure out how to get them to increase the price. Right now, I'm at a loss of about 15%. The customers, majority of them are willing to work with us because they understand it's not my fault. But it's been a very tough ordeal to discuss, price changes against whatever the contract is for. We've been busy because a lot of people are trying to build up their inventory levels of whatever steel they carry. So that's been a positive thing. We see that lasting to a point. Once their inventories are full, they're going to see what happens with these new duties coming about. I'll say one thing is true. Everybody expects prices to go up. The manufacturing is going to increase, but if the raw material keeps coming at a higher price, it's just hard to sustain the same cost structure. And right now, our margins are very low. It's between, 1% to 4%. That's it. Just because of all the uncertainty out there. And last year we had all these shipping costs that went up. This year we have these tariffs that are changing. So our margins have been razor thin. Our company's been in business for almost 40 years now. In the past, things were pretty much, flat. Prices changed up and down. But in the last 5 years, I would say that the drastic changes that have happened have made business very difficult and very stressful. You never know what's going to happen the next day. But this is what I do. I'm in the steel industry and I have another 20 years, hopefully, in the business. So I just keep going at it.
Sam Desai going at it with RM Metals in South Plainfield, New Jersey.
Marketplace is supported by VantageScore, a leading inclusive and predictive credit score used by 8 out of 10 largest banks and over 3,400 bank and fintechs nationwide. VantageScore drives financial inclusion by leveraging innovation. Learn more at VantageScore.com. And by Solidigm. Today's AI ambitions require a different approach to storage. Solidigm offers solid-state storage solutions optimized for AI with higher capacities, greater speed, and energy efficiency. StorageForAI.com.
This final note on the way out today, in which the subject is the price elasticity of demand. Credit to Axios for this one, which spotted research from the University of California, Berkeley, that shows it took a 228% increase in the price of eggs to reduce the number of eggs bought by just 4%. There aren't really any good substitutes, and even $6 or $8 a dozen is not a huge part of people's food budgets. Our daily production team includes Andy Corbin, Nicholas Guillaume, Maria Hollenhorst, Iru Ekbanobi, Sarah Leeson, Sean McHenry, and Sophia Terenzio. I'm Kai Rizdal. We will see you tomorrow, everybody. This is APM.
Have you ever wondered how you would feel if tomorrow you woke up and public radio was just gone?
Oh, man, that would be tough.
I think it would be devastating.
Well, I would grieve because there would be no replacement for it.
We asked listeners around the country that very question.
I've been listening